So today we're going to talk about what it really takes to build inclusive AI communities, not just in theory, but in action. My name's Pallavi Sharma. I'm your host of Your AI CMO. And in this episode, I have the pleasure of sitting down with N. Liberty White. She's a powerhouse storyteller, digital strategy leader, and co-founder of She Learns AI, home to Women and AI Futures. And we're going to uncover the truth about inclusive AI from the ground up. We talk about what AI literacy actually means for leaders today and how organizations are getting inclusion wrong. Also, we'll discuss what it looks like when diverse communities are at the center of innovation and not an afterthought. Here, as a person of color who happens to be female and a parent, here. We have to build a better future that works for all of us. So with a background that spans media, entrepreneurship, and deep community building, Liberty brings incredible insights and strategy to the conversation. So let's get started. Liberty, welcome.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. I am so excited to be here because I just think about all the women in AI that I've been fangirling after, but I actually got a chance to meet you in person when I came out to San Francisco. So to sit down with you is just wonderful. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Likewise. And I feel like I don't do any kind of podcast webinar without mentioning the women. They're called Women X AI now. And, they have these amazing events around the Bay Area. And so I was attending one and I actually used that organization to validate that I should go and launch my own business. When I was thinking about launching it, one of the first events I went to was one that they had hosted. And, I saw these amazing women doing incredible things with AI. And I was like, yeah, I'm absolutely right. I've done the corporate grind for many, many years and I want to do my own thing. And AI is mind blowing to me. So let's go. And I built my own business in 3 weeks using AI, using the knowledge I had of marketing, and signed 3 clients within another 3 weeks. And, Liberty, the thing that was most important for me to see that, I'm not telling you that because it's so cool that I did that. It's that I figured if I could do that, then I could help especially people of color and women, set their own businesses up and scale, because we just don't get the level of support, funding, mentorship, you name it, right? We just don't get it. And so I thought if I could do a little bit to help folks, help their business growth with what I could do with AI, let's go. That's where I was at. So let's talk about you. Go ahead.
You know what? That's actually interesting that you say that. And I think it speaks to not only both of us background, the marketing side of the world, but even as women and how we operate. Because a few years ago when I was fundraising and I had a startup, and it was children's programming and diversity. And then I kept applying for grants and programs and wasn't really getting anywhere. And then there was a program that I went through with Rachel Rogers. Her book is called We Should All Be Millionaires. And she said this as a part of her story. She shared that her business funds her nonprofit. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going about this wrong, that I need to focus on scaling my business so that the projects that I, nonprofit or those types of things that I can fund it. And by the end of that year, that's when ChatGPT came out and Midjourney was getting really hot. So I was like, I think I should be paying more attention to this AI stuff. And especially as a creator, that it's changing the way that we do things. So as you said, 3 weeks, you were able to use the tools to be able to scale. That's the way I look at how I've evolved, is here are these tools that will help my business, but then also the creative side, and help me to do more with less.
Exactly. And we've been doing more with less as far as I can remember, but now it really helps us do a lot more. So let's start at the beginning. What first drew you into the world of AI, storytelling, and community building?
Ooh, that's a great one. How much time do we have again? Yeah.
As long as you want.
So I would say let's start maybe in the reverse. So hindsight being 2020, I now see that I have just always been a part of what's next. And I'll explain that. So I was just coming out of university, and I remember just wanting to, just before I left university, here I am in school getting a double degree, and wait, there's this web design stuff that people are talking about. Let me switch my classes to in the nighttime so I can go to, at this point in time, it was Macromedia. So for those who, I don't know how far back some of your listeners are, but that's pre-Adobe. Adobe bought Macromedia Flash, Dreamweaver. So I went, and just from that time of being able to see how you can integrate tech into marketing and promoting, I started an email list and I was doing all of these events. So that promoter side of me has always been there. The storytelling of telling other people's stories has always been there. So that's over 20 years, dating myself there. But in the last 3 years, AI and its emergence publicly, let's say more so, because we know from the 90s, that's when artificial intelligence really came on the scene. And those people who are in computer science, machine learning, engineering, that realm, they've had their hands on a lot of the tools that have now been more consumer facing. And now this is where we have the marketing world, that we just have all these tools that are accessible to us. So I'm a part of this community called Office Hours Global. Once some of the members started using Midjourney, we would have conversations about it. And that's when I got my hands wet. And it wasn't until I think it was the top of 2023, I said, well, let me do this tutorial showing, because I just have an inclination to teaching and have taught at places like General Assembly and Creative Circus. And I did a tutorial that went viral. It's like, oh,
Nice.
there might be something to this AI content creation thing. So that's kind of my origin stories when it comes to AI.
Well, I'm excited to see that because I don't think I have. And so that's really wonderful. And, I used to love Dreamweaver. I remember Dreamweaver.
Right,
It was
right.
pretty amazing, and you're right. And I saw this happen with Adobe products, for example, over the years, using them increasingly. It became that you had to be a professional. Before, it used to be they were simple enough that if you were a marketing generalist, you could use Adobe Suite pretty easily. And then they increasingly moved, I think, in this direction where you really needed to either be a web designer, a graphic designer to use the tools because they became complicated. Then we saw Canva come out and make those types of tools way more accessible. And I literally just finished recording a webinar with the head of marketing for Gamma. And so Gamma is looking to disrupt it even further, where they are using AI and you can just upload a document and say, create a presentation, and it creates a full like PowerPoint like presentation that's actually really darn good. And so the innovation that's happening is really incredible, and you're now able to speed things up. But that accessibility is also making it tough as a marketer because it's really difficult to kind of cut through the noise, I think, when there's so much content out there. So you have AI that's doing this proliferation of content, but then you have people that don't necessarily have these, long corporate careers that go out there and just produce mind-blowingly amazing content. So it's incredible. I think there's just so much disruption, and it's vibrant. And I think this is why I want to just shake people who are, not generally the folks you see at the helms of company, and say, go take your idea, try to take it to market. There's no time better than right now.
So I love that you said that, because that keyword there of the accessibility. So those folks that potentially don't have, whether it be from an educational level or just even experience with certain tools. Like, I got a chance to speak to the National Association of Black Journalists, and this was earlier this year. But I always say that at the end of the day, you're the subject matter expert. So AI can't necessarily take your storytelling, like your authentic story, from you. There's certain lived experiences that you have, that I have, and being able to take the tools that, like you said, they've leveled. Excuse me, sorry. Taking those tools, because they've leveled the playing field for us. Now, diction wise, kind of futurist here, what I predict that we're going to see is, yes, this noise is going to continue to be here for a little while, but then there's going to be a rising where the cream rises to the top, where the storytellers, like your ability to hone the storytelling, but then also the tools to help you. There's an authenticity that people are craving, and we're going to see that more. But it is important for us to understand how to use the tools and when not to. That's also another important point, when not to.
Exactly. Especially with AI. There's a lot of opportunities where you should not use it, be
Right.
human. And this is what I'm telling the companies that I work with my company called Wit Omni AI Marketing, which I should call an agency, and I'm still having a little concerns about calling it an agency because usually when executives hear that run the other way, they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be so much more expensive, I think, than you would think." But AI's again like just collapsed everything, so you can do everything so much cheaper. It's just kind of insane for me to see. But with the companies that I'm working with, I am telling them how important it is as executives that they have to get out there in front of people. You can't just hide behind like a corporate shell, which used to be the
Right.
way things were done. I'm seeing a lot of startup founders, for example, on LinkedIn that are posting regularly about their journeys, what they're learning, they're sharing it. And so it becomes incredibly important for people, I think, now when there is so much fake stuff out there to be able to understand who are the people behind this tech that I'm using, the tool. Do the values of this company align with me? Does it resonate? I mean, you look at Elon Musk, right? Like an amazing visionary, but a lot of his decisions are turning a lot of people off and it's impacting the stock market. So you can't just hide behind and say, I built a good product, but I'm a different kind of person over here because it may impact your business.
Yeah, and to that point even, again, it's the authenticity, and I think part of what is here and available to the CMOs, to the startup founders, to the small business owners, even within if you work within an organization, even your branding in that organization so that you can continue to be seen for possible promotions is not only the ability to tell the story, but now the consistency that comes with it and you really taking the reins in telling your story. I look at the fact that actually a week ago today, I shared a post on LinkedIn and it's something that I normally wouldn't post. So would AI have told me, throw in a wild card? Probably not. However, what happened from the authenticity and the consistency, because usually I try my best to post almost every day. I've done that for the past 2 years. So when people look and they're like, Liberty, you're everywhere. No, Liberty has tools that helps her to plan and to schedule. And yes, I'll inject certain elements, especially if things happen in real time. But to have that framework per se around just it helps you to then be able to be, this is not going to change, top of mind and awareness as well.
Excellent. Let's talk about that. It's very specific about LinkedIn. So you said you post every day. I actually post about once a week, and I've been
Mhm.
trying to get to the every day. And even with my once a week posting, when I'm offline, I keep hearing that. They're like, "You're everywhere. We're seeing you all over LinkedIn." And I'm curious, any advice in terms of if you're really serious about driving business growth, what do you think? Once a week, every day? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so great question. I look at it as, first of all, know your capacity because I could tell you right now every day and you get burnt out and then you stop posting. We don't want that. So we're looking at some form of consistency for you. So I'd say at minimum, 2 times a week and know your audience. Know so for the most part, the people who follow or engage with my content are either in tech, AI, some in the marketing world, or even founders or founders investors. So knowing what kind of content works for them. I know, and I say this to the team all the time for Women in AI Futures. I say if there's anything we need to get out into the world, it has to be on a Thursday if we need people to pay attention. So knowing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those are your executives are mainly online, but they're online Sunday getting ready for the week. So what kind of content are you putting out on those days? Knowing also the power of commenting. So Pallavi, even though you said that you post once a week or so, you like try, you're in comments though. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
another level of engagement because when you post and when you make a comment, that reverberates to your audience. So they're seeing you. So there's several tactics. And then looking at the fact, are you doing video, carousels, graphics, like even toying around with that. So whenever we're doing like an audit for an organization, we look at first just looking at their audience, looking at the landscape. What are other people? Because for some people, video might not make sense, but you have that long form writing for your execs or your storytellers. You have carousels with very substantive information and data points and workbooks and those types of things. Like being able to understand your content mix is truly powerful and helpful. So you do not have to post all a day every day. For me, that is a level of discipline. And then also I was offline for a lot of April. So I also needed to like, okay, let me make sure I say something because we're getting ready to head to France for Cannes. And I just like, okay,
Gosh, it's
we gotta make sure.
incredible.
Thank you. So it's like a big strategy, but making sure that your capacity first and foremost is where I always tell people to begin.
Exactly. No posting and ghosting. It's a social media platform and there is an algorithm, and LinkedIn wants to see that you're engaging and not just posting something and leaving, and definitely respond to your comments. And yeah, you're right. A lot of my week I end up, going and commenting, not just for the algorithm, but there's so much learning happening right now. I mean, I started using LinkedIn really as a learning platform because the kind of content that does well is when people are sharing their knowledge. And I tell people this, again, offline, they'll say, oh, you're posting this stuff, but I'm not really good at self promotion. And I'm like, that's not what's happening here. What's happening is that you have something to share. And so look at it that way. Like instead of keeping your knowledge to yourself, you're going on and you're sharing your insights with other people that are hopefully helping them. And then, the folks, if you're following the right folks, they're sharing a tremendous amount of information and you can learn a lot by engaging. So it's not just about networking, it's also about learning from these other folks that are in your industry or posting about things that you care about. And the other aspect is with AI, especially, things are moving so fast. You cannot consume and learn in a static way. It has to be pretty dynamic. Every day there's something breaking and breaking news. ChatGPT just launched XYZ. And so staying abreast of all these things is increasingly important. And that's how you do it with this kind of networking. I have this whole list of questions and I'm like, we're not even getting to them yet because it's so great to talk to you. I have a really interesting question about a question. So I obviously use ChatGPT to set up the entire podcast from the topic to the questions. I have a custom GPT that I've trained to do this for me. And then, I give it context and I fed in your profile. And let me read you word for word the question that came out.
Okay.
You've built a reputation for weaving strategy and soul into tech. How did that lens develop for you over time? So when I read this question, I was like, why did it say that you woven soul into tech? I'm like, maybe she had it somewhere in her profile. I don't know, but I wanted to ask you that. Is that just Chat GPT making some assumptions about you?
That is 1,000% ChatGPT. And that
Oh
makes
my
me
God.
wonder, like, what does it have on me that it said soul? Like, yes, that was definitely not me. So
Wow.
I don't think any of my copy has anything like that.
It's insane, but I think we both have a lot of soul, so it's okay. But still, you get my point. This is
Yes.
insane. Yeah, when I saw that, I was very surprised. And then again, I thought, oh, maybe it's in her copy someplace, but why would it do that? But here you go. Perfect example
But
of
then, so
some,
that is like, I'm happy that you shared that because we've been saying, just even talking about inclusivity and even who needs to be at the table for some of those things. So to have this as a bug that could have been flagged on the back end at OpenAI or any organization, because I know this is not an isolated result. These people are probably finding these results in all of the other platforms and LLMs, but having people at the table that can flag those things like this is not this is not okay. That's a reason, that's a part of having myself and others who look and even don't look like us to be involved in this digital transformation, like the greatest transformation since the industrial revolution. So that's just a perfect example of why we need more voices and more people sitting at the table and building some new tables as well.
yeah, 100%. It's the time for innovation. And I think the building of the new tables is going to be so critical because we can create technology that is built for us and suits us. And then obviously it's tough to go launch your own open AI, but that's where it becomes important for us to call these things out. And luckily we can do that over social very publicly. And I do plan to profile this because it to me is just so incredibly stereotypical. Every time I ask it to, what do you think, the whole create an image of what you think I look like, it
Right.
keeps making me like a middle-aged white man. And I don't understand it because I'm like, why do you think that's what I look like? Because nothing we've said, because ChatGPT is really good at like taking the conversations from the past. It
That's
surprises
what
me
I would,
sometimes.
yes,
And I ask it, I'm like, why did you give me that image? And it'll say, oh, because it seems like it fits the stereotype. It'll say some nice things like you're
because
innovative,
of your,
strategic, blah, blah, blah. And it
right.
associates it with that. So,
Yeah, because of your work, like you said, pulling from others. But I think an important thing to point out as well is what you just said at like, why did you say that? Like those are questions, with prompt engineering, those are questions I say as well. Is like understanding why you gave this result. And that will also not only will that help me in a future prompt or however I communicate, but even just understanding the biases and understanding the things that we just need to be aware of. So I just wanted to highlight that and salute you for that.
well, thank you. So let's like dig in a little deeper on what it means to actually build inclusive AI communities. And, I would love to hear from you about what it means kind of in a very pragmatic sense. Because I think unless you've lived these experiences, you don't understand and you don't know when these are issues. And I'll just give you some kind of highlights. Like, a lot of Asian Americans, for example, there is a bit of a stereotype, and I'm not talking about Indians because we are loud, but a lot of Asian Americans are seen as like the model minority and they're quiet and they just go do the job. And obviously that's a huge stereotype. It's not true. And people that I've talked to firsthand, because as I was launching my business, I think I've spoke to easily over 100, actually women and a lot of women of color. And it was like the same things coming up over and over again, no matter what size of company they were at. And you get the stereotype of, oh, it's you don't have executive presence. You don't have, that's why you didn't get the promotion, or you need to speak up, or you need to advocate. And then I know I've kind of gotten the reverse is that I'm too loud, I'm too direct. And, I don't think too many men get those kinds of pieces of feedback necessarily. So you often talk about building inclusive AI communities. What does inclusive actually mean in practice?
Yes, let's start with the I word here. It's being intentional, the intentionality behind it. So you are, whether it's a team that you're looking at, or maybe there's even a process or a workflow that you're looking to adjust inside of your organization. Well, before you do that, who's at the table? Before you create this new campaign, who's at the table? So that's a great question. And I think it starts with the letter I. And what I mean by that is that represents being intentional. So being intentional with who's at the table when certain decisions are made, or whether it be if you're an organization looking at what your AI literacy program or your digital transformation looks like, that you have from people from a various age range, experience wise, also culturally, who's at the table, gender. So making sure that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's by making sure that it's not just one group or one representative there. And I'll give you a story, even though this is years ago, but just showing the significance and why this is important. So years ago, I worked at the state economic development, and I remember that there was a magazine cover that was going to go out. And now this is Georgia, this is the South, and the magazine cover was going to have someone eating a watermelon on it. And the store, and it's like, so you're already you already get it, but it's like somebody on the group, in the group and on the communication teams, it was an African American person. And they're like, for this story, we cannot do that. Like, it was on the cover. It was already printed. Like, it was about to go out the door. But because there was someone in the room who had just the natural, innate cultural background, the historic, and they were able to identify that as a problem before this would have been a media nightmare. So just looking at it from that perspective, for you to be able to have an inclusive room and environment, you need to put as many people at the table, and you also need to stress test. It can't just be lip service. It has to actually be, there has to be a plan behind it, some sort of roadmap to ensure that there are checkpoints as you're going through your.
Yeah, absolutely. There are things like this which are visible and you might be able to pick out, and you if you don't have the right people around, you won't know to pick those things out. And then even deeper, there are kind of cultural contexts that become important in terms of how you're interacting and communicating. And I think that, again, it's that I word, the intentionality. No one is saying you need to know everything about everybody and I think you and I are kind of similar career trajectory that I'm like not a PC person at all. I will say stuff and my kids are like, you did not just say that, so that's me. But that's actually kind of my culture. I grew up being very like jokey about things and being edgy and pushing things. And I don't think anybody has taken offense at it because the intentionality is not there for me to like draw them down or pull them down or whatever, right? And so I think that's kind of the key part of all of this is to take the time to really get to know the other person and understand that they might have a different perspective from you, and then that's okay. And some of these things are really rooted in kind of cultural backgrounds in terms of why they're making the decisions they are. And so it's a little bit messy. It's not easy. It's not point A to point B. It's the human experience. And I think now that AI is on the scene, I'm really hoping that humans feel okay to be human again, because I know I've spent so much of my career pretending to be this like corporate robot, which I have. And it came kind of natural to me, which was okay. But now I'm letting loose a little bit and saying I want to be able to be my personality, and that's a good thing. And I want to get to know you, Liberty, as to who you are, not like this kind of robotic corporate entity, because we have AI to do all that for us.
Right.
Well, what do
Right.
you bring to the table that makes you unique, kind of thing?
And even in that is like also, so we've got the intentionality, but then research. Like there's so much. We do not lack research and knowledge right now. It is applying it. So we've got the World Economic Forum, but they're constantly sharing reports and data, whether it be gender, all of the issues. I think there's like 7 pillars. Don't quote me on that they cover, but there's so much. We didn't even deal with like class and poverty. And so all of those elements at the table, there's before you do something, it's like, what is out there? Perplexity is our friend. Go to Perplexity and do some search.
Yeah, Perplexity is great for researching and giving you links so you can verify where that research is coming from.
Right.
And I highly recommend that tool if people haven't used it and they're trying to kind of dig deeper. I'm a huge ChatGPT fan, but Perplexity, I think, just kind of takes the cake when you want to understand why it's telling you the things that it is. So let's take a little pause real quick here, Liberty. I want to understand a little bit more about your business. What do you do? What is She Learns AI all about? Can you tell our audience a bit about it?
Yes, definitely. So She Learns AI, we're a platform where we help women with upskilling and workforce development. And so I say women, we have a lot of allies and men that participate as well. But roughly a year ago, and we celebrated our 1 year anniversary in March. That's when we did Women in AI.
Congrats.
Yes. And you just celebrated a 1 year
We
anniversary too, right?
Exactly, exactly. I didn't even realize it, and somebody messaged me, and I'm like, oh my God, it's been a year.
Because you've been busy doing the work. That's why. Yeah. So
Absolutely. No shortage of that.
She Learns AI, and it really was just birthed out of, it was Women's History Month, and as I said, I've got a background in media, so I was like, how am I going to celebrate? Do I want to, I could go live, I could do some content, and I was like, there's a lot of people that are doing that already. How do you cut through the noise, do something a little bit different? And a lot of people, whenever they saw these chat GPT prompts, they would just feel, because they know that I'm in the space, they would DM me, and I'm like, I know you all are not even doing these prompts. Like they just see them and they send them or they bookmark. And how many people even listening or watching right now, you've got a whole bunch of bookmarks of different AI tools, but to actually do something with it. So I said, oh my goodness, then I could do some sort of challenge to get, because the World Economic Forum says 35% of women, when these tools come out, that only 35% of women are testing or trying them, while 53% of men, and the numbers changed since a year ago. But that's significant because, again, we're talking about accessibility and inclusion. So if there is this break in, this is the pace of innovation, but then we're here. So as it keeps moving, we're still going to be behind. So I said, I'm going to do this challenge to get women prompting across 21 days. And I just launched it, and it was like, She Learns AI. Just do one prompt
Nice.
once a day, and then here we go. And that just was like the floodgates opened from people. I've heard stories from people who's like, they were so fearful, they were AI fearful is what I like to say, and now they're AI confident because they didn't realize just being able to have someone to like walk them through, and then also the significance of having community to do that with. So that has been my journey. So going from more so teaching digital marketing to now all encompassing of how people can use AI in their work to help them be workforce ready. And then also for organizations, how they can train their team. Sometimes it's something very specific. And then other times it's just like, we just need some AI literacy. Can you come in and help us with that? So that is She Learns AI. And then Women in AI Futures being the 1 week that we said, okay, every single day, because I think you had said something earlier about when you launched your business and all the women that you spoke to. So that just having that community and that resource to be able to bounce ideas off of or even get feedback. Well, from us doing a year for She Learns AI, but back in 2016, 2012, that's when I've been training. So, and adult learning, and adults learn by doing and learn by repetition. So we said, okay, 5 immersive days, 2 were online, 3 in person, and it has been life changing for so many people. So that is the space I live in. I look at it as like ed tech. So the education piece of helping the world get ready for technology and AI.
Yeah, excellent. And you do, there, as you know, since you've been immersed in it, I spend so much time just learning because it's insane. It's hard to keep up with.
Right.
Not just like the LLMs, but the various tools that are being developed and launched now. And so if you're in-house at a company doing your day job, it's very difficult to keep up. Even using ChatGPT in the right way, for example, and getting the most out of it takes a lot of time to kind of understand how you need to prompt and get the information you need. And it's not always super intuitive. So, the programs such as She Learns AI, or if there's other programs that you can find. I mean, I highly recommend people looking at that and taking the time. Sometimes it's difficult to just teach yourself. And if you're not that kind of person who's a tinkerer, doing a structured course is definitely the way to go. My mom's neighbor, actually, it's so funny because I saw her online and she had talked about how she had used make.com to do this agentic workflow,
Nice.
doing exactly what I've been like, it's on my to-do list. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do that. And she did it. And I met with her. I'm like, how did you do that? And she's like, well, I was part of a 1 week program to teach women how to use AI. And we would get together and they would teach us these tools. And she's a techie, mind you. So it's not like she's not. And she did it. So I'm so happy to see these types of opportunities for people. Really, the only limit is you taking the step to engage with like a program such as She Learns AI, in my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah. And it is also that term, because I was on your webinar this morning, so it was fantastic. And it's like the
Thank you.
cognitive load, right? That's what
Yes.
that just part of the conversation. So you think about those things, like I used to play basketball and volleyball. So I get health and wellness. I know the things to do to eat, but I am building a business, raising my child, all the things, building community, the time and the capacity to then also be like, okay, researching what I need to eat at this time and all of those. No, no, no. I just need a trainer. Tell me what to do and I will do it. And that's the way I look at it, even with some of these courses. You could YouTube. I tell people all the time, YouTube University. And like you said, I like that, the LinkedIn learning. There's spaces for you to find that information. However, is it the best use of your time? Like these programs accelerate your learning, even being on your webinar, you providing educational value that's accelerating the time that I would need to talk in to all of your panelists to get that knowledge and that information. So those are the kind of decisions that you want to make and be very clear and just do it.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk a little bit about the application and the pragmatic side of all this learning that we're talking about. So what are some common missteps that companies make when trying to build diversity into their AI strategy? And can you also talk to us about what you've seen in terms of what companies are actually doing to build and deploy an AI strategy? Is it a mad rush and chaos, or, are you seeing companies kind of rolling it out methodically the way they would other tech? I'm sure the answer is somewhere running the gamut, but would love to hear what you're seeing and give us some examples, if you will, of how it's working well.
Yeah. So I would literally, you answered it right there. It's like it's kind of like running the gamut. I won't say 50-50, but it's there, those folks that they have implemented, but they sorry, not implemented, but like started the ball rolling, and they've got all the consultants in the room and they're trying to make these decisions, but the ones that are doing it well are doing the groundwork of what areas of the business, because everything doesn't need to be AIified right now. Is what area is it that has the most need? A lot of any organizations that have customer service, those areas where there's mass volume of data, or even just communication, like repetitive tasks, those spaces I see them doing well by doing those assessments and the training, doing that work to ensure that they understand the learning style of their audience, of their team. And as I say audience, but meaning their employees, and being very intentional with it, and also recognizing that it's not an overnight thing. These are things that are being rolled out, but you're looking easily 6 to 12 months of having to do the assessment, actually get in and have the proper program, and then getting it into the hands of your employees, and then to be able to see results. Most people don't like to hear that, but that's the reality of you are upskilling an entire.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other part of the whole AI revolution is that there are small ways that are, with minimal risk,
Yes.
that people can start using AI in their various departments or capacities. And, then if you're looking at deploying AI, for example, across an enterprise and feeding it data that is sensitive, et cetera, obviously that journey is going to take much longer, but it isn't one size fits all. And I think it's really important that companies look at where can they do it in a low risk way, because honestly, the best employees, the most forward thinking, innovative employees are definitely using it, and they're probably using it without your knowledge. Better to figure out, kind of some guardrails and allow them to use it and allow them to test it safely, set up parameters. I know, like with ChatGPT, there are ways where you can turn it off so it's not using your data to train. And at this point, it's a pretty big company, so I think the security factor, you got to put a little bit of trust in there in certain ways. But yeah, so I think this is something that we were talking about this earlier. It's like the companies that hold back, they're going to get demolished, in my opinion, because the level of speed that some of these other companies that are comfortable with AI are moving, they're going to leave like those old school companies in the dust. And I hate to give this example, So I used to manage the GE brand when it was the largest in the world. It was one of the oldest companies, in the United States. It's been delisted now, right? And I saw it when I was there. I remember when I was at corporate and I was like, hey, there's these companies, Google, Facebook, we need to engage with them and collaborate with them. And, I was told, oh, well, they have more to learn from us than we do from them. And I just sat back and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And so in some ways, it was an amazing company and experience, but I'm not surprised to see, well, I am surprised, but the fact that it happened, I think that, no company's immune to this kind of downfall. And so if you're thinking, well, you're the market leader and you know best, well, we've got news for you, right? Time is constantly evolving, and just because you're on top now doesn't mean that's the way it's going to go forever. So it's important to pay attention. All right, let's talk about AI literacy and why should leaders and me being on the marketing side, I don't know if you have any specific advice for us, but why should we care so much about AI literacy right now?
Well, kind of to the example that I shared before of being an thank God, just the intuitiveness to see, okay, something back when I was in university. So here's web design and just that space. So I recognized the need to go out to go get other training. Now, granted, I thought that I could hustle on the goal was to hustle on the side while being at school building websites and web pages, but not really even understanding what that web revolution was going to do to the world. Because if you remember, like even just where we are from static HTML web pages to where we are right now, I think of it as the same thing with AI. Just even looking yesterday, Google I/O and everything that they announced. Now, you don't need to necessarily know how to build these things, but you do need to understand how they work, how it's changing, especially inside of an organization or even enterprise, to be able to forecast what do you need to be paying attention to? How do you support and defend your work, prepare your workforce? And because it's not just North America, this is global. So we had DeepSeek earlier this year with China building, and there are rumblings and things happening. I see Singapore as well, and then also on the continent of Africa. So to do the work now to just understand, like we've been talking about, like understanding prompt engineering, or if you're a little bit more tech savvy, even AWS, understanding the different cloud infrastructures and how that plays on the back end, or even as a data scientist, understanding how to segment and some of those things. Like there's so many resources out there. So to be able to just even understand and just to be aware is going to put you far ahead than those who are still guarded. Now, I'm not saying there aren't issues with artificial intelligence, machine learning. I'm not saying that at all. And that's also a part of the literacy, so that you're aware, cybersecurity, all of these terms. So if there was a way to even help people to get prepared or just thinking through, like if there was a roadmap, is I always say is let's just start. And I would say much of your audience is probably on LinkedIn. So there are a number of people and organizations. We've already mentioned too, Women X AI, She Learns AI. There are voices on there. All you've got to do is use a hashtag artificial intelligence, AI content, some of those, just put AI in front of whatever industry you're in, and you'll probably be able to come up with some of that content. But spend 15 minutes a day or pick 3 days a week to just, we mentioned Perplexity, go to Perplexity and say, give me your industry and what's happening. There's TechCrunch. So there's just so many resources. It's more so if you can carve out the time to start paying attention to what's happening. I mean, that's one of the many ways that I started, and then finding a community. So those, when I talk and I share just like, how do you get started? That is a fundamental roadmap, and you'll be off to the races.
All right, well, thank you for that. So we're just going to pause real quick to hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. If they'll come was your marketing strategy and they didn't, WIT Omni fixes that.
Go to witomni.com and schedule a free consult today. That's wit as in quick, because slow growth isn't an option.
So you've helped build ecosystems like She Learns AI. What lessons have you learned from kind of grassroots AI community work that corporate leaders need to hear?
So that is a great question. Even some conversations I had earlier today of just talking through what it takes and ensuring that you are, as much as possible, what can you do in advance? Like even with Women in AI Futures, we say we're building as we fly at the same time. So you're in the air building, well, getting the right people in the right place. So it's still a talent conversation. The skill set that someone might have, someone who is really good at community management, maybe someone is more so on the visual side, so creating some of those branding materials. But once you recognize and actually if I can take that, I'm going to start that again. I'm going to start
Sure.
that. Excuse me.
Edit, new question, answer.
So we've had this conversation internally. As I said, She Learns AI is a year old. Women in AI Futures, we just a couple of months ago did our first week of intensive programming. And now we're heading to France for CADS in a few weeks. And I look at the fact, and I've said to the team, I said, at the end of the day, our priority is like really knowing that audience and making sure that this our persona or avatar, depending on how far you are in your business that or organization, and really serving them. Like I look at organizations and other communities that do that well, putting them first, because if we get too caught up, even though the tech is a part of our community, like AI is at the core, it's in our name, it's in the brand, but there's a human being on the other side of that. And is this need to be in-person event versus another webinar or another challenge? Or do we need to change some of the messaging because being culturally sensitive to what's happening right now? Like those elements, the human being is still at the core of it. And so I say to anyone listening and organizations is not to lose sight of that with the shiny objects and the shiny tools, because they're going to be there. But once your community member loses trust, it's either gone or it's going to take so much more to repair that. So that I would say is the biggest lesson, because there in some areas, full transparency, like we're trying to fix some things just even based off of that, because you're trying to keep up, but it is we might need to pause here. So understanding, I would add that understanding where to pause, because we are in a time where people are looking for that authenticity. So better to be able to take a pause versus, okay, you got to undo so much. So I hope that made sense.
I think it's so exciting to hear that you will be going to Cannes, and I would love to know personally, as would our listeners, I'm sure, how did you make that happen for your organization? And once you get there, what will you be doing at Cannes?
Okay, so love this question. And I'll say that I don't know how much it was of us making it happen, because we were at when we did Women in AI Futures, some of the people in the room, they were, and this was on our innovation day, so we had folks there that have gone to Davos and they'd been to Cannes before. So they just said, we really think this is something that would work well in that environment. So the opportunity arose, and I do want to have this disclaimer that we're not a part of like Cannes Lions, the official festival. Like that's not us. There are 300 plus activations that happen in concert with Cannes. So that is us. And so there were some just conversations and some like just starting to work on the project. And then we realized, going back to authenticity, just some things transpired. I was like, wait a second, this is really us. This is the way that we would, like, our Women in AI community would want to show up. So it was, as we were planning, it was like, oh, wait a second. We are all about access and leveling the playing field. So we have a delegation that people are able to apply for. And we're about to make an announcement. I wish that it had been made so I could share it now, but we're going to make an announcement soon with just one of our partners that will be helping to lead the delegation, where there'll be other women founders and creatives and those in commerce that will be going with us. And once we're over there, we're going to have, for those who have been to Cannes, they know that there are all these panels and sessions and a lot of food and a lot of parties. So we'll be a part of that, hosting a curated series of dinners, and it's called Beyond the Croisette. And the Croisette is where everything happens. So our whole theme is, okay, we want to go a little bit deeper. You've said that a couple times on this podcast. Okay, I want to go a little bit deeper. And why not go deeper with people in a global space discussing what's happening now, what's happening in AI, culture, commerce, and the future. So super excited about
It's
that.
incredible.
And yeah, just answering that is the fact that we just kept doing the work and people noticed. So I would say that's how we made it happen.
That's incredible. Yeah, just go out there and do the work. And, good things will definitely come if you are having the kind of impact that I know you are having with your organization. So I can't wait to watch I'm sure you're going to be posting about it on social. So I can't wait. And then I'd love to hear about it when you get back. That's going to be so amazing. All right. So if someone listening wants to build a more inclusive AI future, can you give us some easy steps on what people can do to make that happen?
So I think that this is almost like a great wrap of just some of the conversation that we've had. So if you want to build a more AI and an inclusive future for yourself or for your team, organization, it starts with doing the work, doing the research, getting plugged in, whether that's plugged in. There are a lot of great podcasts out there, this being one of them. Matt Wolf is someone else that I he does all these great wrap ups. So if I didn't get a time to like really sit down and ingest some of the releases for the week, I'm like, okay, let me just tune into Matt and see what he's saying. So start to immerse yourself in the culture, because there is somewhat of a culture. And then the next thing is looking at, well, what area of your business or your organization do you want to, that you could use the support of agentic model tools and using some of the tools for whether it be content or data. So start looking at use cases. That's a great way to start, and researching some of those. And then the intentionality behind, okay, so what are our blind spots? I think asking really great questions, because that's what makes a great prompt, is being able to ask really great questions. So ask those questions of yourself. Well, what are we missing, and who needs to be at the table? What does this mean ethically for our organization? There's a group that I've just joined, and they're even, someone in the group, they're even working on what kind of policies do we need for agents. That's having someone at the table with that lens. So what are the questions that you need to ask? So immerse yourself in the culture, be intentional, and then be intentional in doing your research, and then taking action.
As you are an expert in AI, could you tell us what are some go-to tools beyond ChatGPT, Perplexity, the LLMs? What are some tools that you really recommend people try out? And also, are there other resources or podcasts, for example, that you would recommend?
Sure. So I'll answer the tools question, because I think that one is super helpful. There's so many tools out there, so many people that have newsletters, that there's always something new coming out. But when I look at, okay, our workflow and what makes sense, and they are constantly growing, like Descript is a huge one. I would almost say that's like foundational to our ability to create videos and transcripts, to even creating audiograms, because not everybody wants to be on camera or has visuals. So you have those audiograms, it's just audio and being able to have the captions on there. Opus Clip. So let's say for your podcast, you put it in and a hack. I'll share the super quick hack, but Opus Clip, enables you to cut down your podcast or whatever that content is. They've also, in the last year, yes, our time is flying. So in the last year, they've added the ability to have like using AI to generate B-roll in those clips. So if you are creating shorts or reels, you'll upload your content or grab the link for your content. And what I love about Opus is that it does some sort of SEO. So it recognizes, it's going to tell you what the best clips are. And the reason why. And there's a grading system that they use. So even if you don't use it for that way, being able to then just use your content, upload your content, and then be like, okay, this is what we need to write a blog about, because it's given you that background information on why it works and what it means for the various keywords it's highlighting there. So I would say those are like the two key, if you are content marketing, that you definitely want to have. And of course the Jaspers out there that are more for your copy AI, and your Jaspers for copywriting if you're into programmatic ads, being able to put that there. So those are 4 tools that I would recommend.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I use Riverside, and Riverside has it creates these magic clips that you can use. So I
Nice.
haven't used Opus myself because I get it in Riverside, but I think I did see something about it looking a little deeper into the SEO. So that was pretty compelling. And I know a lot of people are using it. So I may have to kind of test that out. All right, Liberty, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all your amazing insights. I'm really looking forward to, again, continuing to learn from you. And when you share your experience out at Cannes, I'm going to be watching for that. So please tell the audience again, where can they find you online?
Yeah, well, I want to say thank you for just carving out this time so that we could, share. Because again, when we met, I was like, "Oh, another marketer. This is so cool." So having this talk time, and to just even bringing me into your audience and your community. So I appreciate that. And you want to learn more about She Learns AI at shelearnsai.com, or you can go to Women in AI Future /Cans to find out if you want to come with us and you think like this is an experience that you want to be a part of. You can visit us there and learn more, just learn more overall. So thank you so much, Pallavi.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for listening. Please make sure, if you're a first-time listener, that you subscribe, and definitely share it out to someone who might be interested, and leave us comments, because I think it's really important to continue to build future episodes based on what I'm hearing that are topics of interest to people. So again, thank you so much for visiting Your AI CMO, and we look forward to bringing more amazing people. And Liberty, I would love to have you back here in the future. Listeners, thanks again. Talk to you soon.